직업 스튜디오 라이브 ASL에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
지치지 않는 청춘과 열정, 젊음을 대표하는 에너지 드링크 핫식스와 함께합니다. ASL 시즌 13 24강 B조 경기로 인사드립니다. 안녕하세요, 이영경입니다. 어제 펼쳐졌던 개막전 경기, 단단한 도재욱 선수 그리고 우승자 출신의 자존심을 지킨 김윤중 선수, 이 두 프로토스 선수가 16강 진출에 성공했습니다. 자, 오늘은 오랜만에 ASL에서 만나보실 수 있는 선수들이 많이 포진해 있는 24강 B조 경기가 여러분을 기다리고 있습니다. 선수들 만나봐야겠죠? 인사드리겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
반갑습니다. 자, 먼저 이재호 선수 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
매 시즌 이재호 선수와 ASL이 함께하면 늘 우승자, 강력한 우승 후보로 또 이재호 선수가 지목이 되고 있습니다. 이 타이틀에 대해서 조금은 부담도 느끼실 것 같은데 24강 B조를 준비하면서는 좀 어떠셨나요?
일단 준비하는데 어려움은 없었고요. 항상 그 우승 후보로 좀 지목을 해주셔서 감사하긴 한데 몇 시즌 동안 또 제가 성적을 잘 못 내가지고 조금 죄송스럽기도 합니다.
과연 이번 시즌은 또 다시 한번 이재호 선수의 좋은 경기력을 기대할 수 있을지도 궁금해지는데요. 또 옆에 계신 선수와도 인사 나눠보겠습니다. 박지훈 선수 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
무려 6시즌 만에 ASL 본선 진출입니다. 3년여 만에 본선 진출에 대한 느낌이 좀 남다르실 것 같거든요. 어떠신가요?
네, 계속 못 뚫었는데 이번에 또 운 좋게 뚫어가지고 꼭 이번에 16강 정도는 가봐야 될 것 같아요. 네.
본선이 확정된 순간은 좀 기억이 나시나요?
네, 뭐 그냥 기분 좋았어요. 네, 그냥 기분만 좋았던 것 같고 이제부터 시작이라고 생각해가지고 네, 꼭 올라가도록 하겠습니다.
네, 또 옆에 계신 김태경 선수와도 인사 나눠보겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
네, 예선부터 어제 펼쳐졌던 개막전까지 프로토스의 강세가 좀 예상되고 있어서 김태경 선수도 이번 시즌 좀 뭔가 보여주고 싶으실 것 같아요.
제가 요새 프로토스 하는 걸 봤는데 선수들 다 너무 잘해가지고 제가 보는데도 못 따라하겠더라고요. 뭐 어떻게든 좀 보고 배우려고 했는데 그런 배운 것들을 오늘 좀 활용하고 싶습니다.
컨디션은 괜찮으신가요?
게임이 잘 안 됐는데 여기가 좀 익숙한 장소라 그런지 좀 손풀 때 잘 되더라고요. 느낌이 좋아요.
또 약간은 긴장을 하고 있는 것처럼 보이는 이혜훈 선수와도 인사를 좀 나눠봐야겠죠. 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
네, 작년 한 해 동안은 좀 본선의 벽이 높게 느껴졌을 이혜훈 선수입니다. 그래도 또 오랜만에 ASL 본선 무대로 돌아오셨는데요. 현재 기분은 좀 어떠신가요?
제가 작년에 아예 한 번도 참가를 못 해가지고 되게 슬펐는데 올해는 그래도 오랜만에 올라오게 돼가지고 진짜 열심히 준비했거든요. 그래서 16강 꼭 올라가고 싶어요.
반가운 얼굴들이 있어서 팬 여러분들도 오늘 B조 경기 많이 기대를 하고 계실 것 같습니다. 계속해서 팬분들은 이 4명의 선수들에게 어떤 부분을 궁금해하셨을지 에스크 ASL로 한번 전해보도록 하겠습니다. 먼저 이재호 선수에게 남겨주신 질문입니다. 이재호 선수 경기력에 비해서 좀 만족스럽지 못한 느낌의 최근 시즌을 보면서 좀 아쉬움을 느끼셨던 분인 것 같아요. 이번 시즌 어떤 플레이 컨셉을, 좀 어떤 모습을 보여주고 싶으신지 물어봐 주셨거든요.
제가 지난 시즌이랑 그전 시즌은 조금 제 실력에 대해서 좀 자만을 하면서 제 수준에 맞지 않게 좀 보여주고 싶은 플레이를 많이 했었는데 이번 시즌부터는 다시 제 플레이로 돌아와가지고 좀 단단한 플레이를 해볼 생각입니다.
단단한 플레이를 기대하셔도 좋다라는 대답까지 들어봤습니다. 박지현 선수에게는 이런 질문이 올라왔습니다. 자이언트 킬링을 보고 싶어하는 팬분이신 것 같은데요. 이번 시즌 범신 모드로 박지현 선수가 활약하는 모습 좀 기대해봐도 좋을지 질문을 올려주셨네요.
네, 뭐 그냥 편하게 왔어요. 그냥 마음 비우고 제가 연습한 대로만 딱 하면 좋은 결과 나올 수 있을 것 같아가지고 편하게 하려고요. 네.
연습한 대로 한다면 좋은 결과를 기대해봐도 된다라는 대답 안에서 뭔가 비장의 무기가 있지 않을까 하는 또 기대감도 드는데요. 자, 김태경 선수에게 질문 드리도록 하겠습니다. ASL 예선 1일차의 모습 그리고 최근 개인 방송의 모습 많은 분들이 여전한 경기력 확인하셨지만 본인 스스로 현재의 폼 어떻게 평가하고 계시는지 궁금해요.
옛날에 제가 게임할 때는 솔직히 온라인에선 그래도 자신감이 있었어요. 그 당시는 거의 100%라고 친다면 지금 제가 볼 때 저의 느낌은 한 40%, 50% 정도밖에 안 올라왔다고 생각해요. 일단 오늘 올라가고 어차피 시간이 남기 때문에 만약 올라간다면 16강까지 기량을 끌어올려야 될 것 같아요.
워낙 경험이 많은 선수이기 때문에 경기를 하면서 또 기량을 찾아가지 않을까 싶습니다. 마지막 이혜원 선수에게 질문 드리겠습니다. 오랜만에 ASL 본선 진출 쉽지 않은 주여서 준비하기가 좀 까다로웠을 것 같은데 준비를 하시면서 좀 재밌었던 점, 힘들었던 점, 기억에 남는 부분이 있으실까요?
사실 너무 오랜만에 올라왔는데 조가 나오고 나서 너무 여태까지 했던 조 중에 가장 어렵다고 생각이 들어가지고
네.
그냥 좀 마음을 비웠어요. 그래가지고 뭐 힘들거나 즐거웠던 건 없던 것 같고 그냥 마음 비우고 잘 하고 가려고 합니다.
그래도 ASL에서 보여줬던 부분이 있던 이혜훈 선수이기 때문에 오늘 역시 기대해 보도록 하겠습니다. 네 선수의 각오를 끝으로 인터뷰 마무리해 보려고 하는데요. 이혜훈 선수부터 각오 한 말씀 밝혀주시죠.
제가 프로토스전이 좀 약하다는 얘기가 많은데 오늘 좀 그 이미지를 좀 바꾸고 가고 싶습니다.
네, 좋습니다. 김태경 선수 한 말씀 해주시죠.
제가 최근에 나왔을 때는 최종전에서 올라왔거든요. 이번에는 진짜 한번 2승으로 올라오고 싶습니다.
좋은 모습 기대하겠습니다. 박지훈 선수.
네, 오랜만에 그 오프 경기라 긴장되고 재밌을 것 같은데 재밌는 경기 하도록 하겠습니다. 네.
기대하도록 하겠습니다. 이재원 선수 마지막으로 한 말씀 남겨주시죠.
오늘 꼭 2승으로 진출해가지고 16강도 준비 잘 해보도록 하겠습니다.
네, 오늘 최고의 경기력 기대하겠습니다. 인터뷰 고맙습니다.
감사합니다.
네, 하식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌 13 이 4명의 선수들 중 과연 어떤 2명의 선수가 16강에 오를 수 있을지 24강 비조 경기를 통해 지금 확인해 보시죠.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of ASL. We're here in Group B in the round of 24. And I'll tell you what, today has to be better than the day before.
Yeah.
It has to be. I do want to say I'm actually very sick today. I almost wasn't able to make it. I've got some kind of stomach bug. I assume that Group A actually made me violently ill, and that's why I feel this way.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do my best to try to actually bring a good cast today, even though I feel like garbage.
No, I totally get you, Tasteless. When I first started having days like Group A a couple years ago when I started streaming StarCraft Ladder all the time, I became violently ill as well. But, you'll get used to it, Tasteless, and you'll feel better soon.
I went to the doctor. He put the stethoscope on my back, and then I said, I saw Group A yesterday. He went, oh, yeah, you should probably just rest. Best and Shuttle get out. I think those results are exciting. The games were, I don't know how else to say it, but that was probably, a record, a new record in overall bad games. So I think it's all up, on the up and up from here on out.
Oh, absolutely. And you take a look at this group. This is actually a very, very exciting group. And look, I know you're not going to want to hear this, Tasteless, but Tyson and Sacsri can actually make upsets here. It's a possibility.
No,
I know
think you're
Light
right.
and Bisu are great, but Tyson is like, he's on the up and up right now. He's been playing some awesome games. I've actually casted a lot of his games for my YouTube channel, and he's in good shape. And Sacsri, of course, is always a very good Zerg that's just, there's so many good Zergs that you don't think of Sacsri, but he's just below them.
No, Sacsri is a very scary opponent, and I think he's just overshadowed by the other Zergs here that it's important that we do put some emphasis on, what a great player he is. And let's keep in mind, in the last couple of years, we've had a lot of new players kind of rise up and play extremely well. And although it's easy to be familiar with these old gods, we have to, point out that there are going to be players that rise up, and maybe in this tournament, it's going to be a Sacsri or a Tyson that ends up driving their way all the way to the finals. You cannot count that out. All these guys are so strong.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how these first couple matches go, because Eclipse best of 1, some crazy things can happen. Absolutely. We saw Light actually last season almost lose to Ruin on Eclipse, if you recall that, Tasteless, the gas stealing to Forge expand, which was super high tech. And now with Tyson being here, I think Tyson actually has really solid decision-making in Protoss vs. Terran. So I think if he gets himself into a decent position, he might be able to follow it through. Although, that being said, Light is the best or second best Terran in the world right now. So you have to look at him as the favorite of the group no matter what.
For sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Light is easily going to be the guy to get out of this group first. I mean, Bisu's exciting if you're a fan of the long history of StarCraft and of Protoss, but we really don't know how Bisu's going to play now. You know, he hasn't been streaming very much. He hasn't been very active, and so, I mean, he certainly should be able to get out, but there's a lot of question marks surrounding him and his play right now.
Yeah, and I do want to mention, we just saw Light's stats there, and he's actually, Light is basically the Terran equivalent of Best, where you're always like, okay, this guy is top 2 or 3 of his race at all moments, but doesn't really deliver an ASL. Like, Light, you know, he doesn't have an ASL championship. He does have a KSL championship, which is awesome, although KSL is now defunct. But yeah, he doesn't quite get as far as he should.
Yeah, it's a very good point. He looks scary. He beats pretty much anyone, everyone, but the results don't seem to show that he's able to navigate a tournament like somebody like Flash has.
Yeah, well, I guess nobody can do that. Almost Queen, but other than that,
yeah, almost Queen, almost Mini, but yeah, I mean, it's a very different beast to be able to walk through, you know, an array of the best players in the entire world and then come out on top with everybody studying each other, all the hours, all the hard work put into this that everybody's done. But, you know, every season we turn over a new leaf. Let's see what happens as we go into Season 13.
All right, here we go. It's going to be the first match against Tyson for Light here on Eclipse. Let's get started in Group B.
이클립스에서 게임을 시작합니다.
Okay, we've got Protoss in the top right. We've got Zerg in the bottom. Zerg. We've got Terran in the bottom left. Sorry.
Boy, Tyson would really be surprised about that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that would be a great plot twist in this best of one. So, we were talking about this before we started the recording, but you know, one thing about this map is that there are so many good cheeses to do in a PvT, and then you don't even necessarily have to cheese at all. So I'm very excited to see what Tyson, going up against the best Terran player in our tournament right now, what he decides is truly the best build to get an edge and maybe come out and beat a player like Light.
Yeah. I really don't know what his plan will end up being, and this is going to be an exciting thing to just see from Protoss players as they play Terrans on Eclipse, what that build is that they want to do. Is it the gas steal? Is it the fast nexus? There's so many ways to dictate the game, and I think as long as Tyson opens strongly, it should be a really interesting one, because like I mentioned, I think that one of his strong suits, and I don't say this lightly, I think he has really good decision making. I've seen a lot of his PvTs where he just won't make some of the foolhardy attacks you occasionally see from even the world's best Protoss players. You know, you'll watch some of these best Protoss players, and even someone like Snow, you'll be like, oh, was he supposed to attack there? Whereas Tyson will take it a little bit slower and really find his edge.
So, this has basically been the trending build order PvT at the highest level on this map. Is the gas steal into probably a gateway expand, perhaps a Nexus first, but...
Yeah, it does look like a Nexus this time, Taste. There's no gate or anything yet.
Okay, so I've got some question marks about this, because a gas steal into Nexus, I do feel like you're a little bit weak to an SCV Marine all-in. If you know, normally... Actually, I shouldn't say normally, but in the previous season of ASL, we did see one of our Protoss players make the pylon on the low ground as if it was against Zerg and make cannons there. So yeah, let's see if there's an opportunity here for Light to maybe do some kind of a Marine SCV rush to punish. Now, if you do just Nexus first, no gas steal, a lot of times you can actually get away with it, but the extra 100 gas to take from the Terran, the fact that the Terran, if they do a Marine SCV rush, they don't need to take any gas at all. I am very interested to see how this is going to be handled.
Yeah, like, is he actually going to send it down? Now, he does make the second pylon on the low ground there, so there is the possibility of going into a forge The Forge does make pretty darn quickly, but he has the gateway being made right now. One Marine going across the map, but, I mean, with the command center going up, Light can't really do a rush here.
No, the fact that he made the CC means he's not going to do any kind of all-in at all. But he may want to try to bait out some Marines and see if he can't get some kind of engagement. He's actually chased the probes away enough that it could be a little bit ambiguous on the Protoss side of things how many workers were or were not pulled here.
Well, he does have the assimilator still, so I think he's got like a
Oh, you're right.
idea.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the assimilator has like really long vision as well, so I think we're just going to see, like, I mean, this is the to and fro that you expect to see at the pro level, right? Where Light is like trying to gain some value, and he is, right? Like he's forcing some lost mining time and things like that.
Yeah, I think, Tyson was extremely patient here and did not overextend, and so he's going to force a cancel on that. But again, we do have a command center finishing here at the natural. So this is going to be a game where things should slow down a little bit. It's going to be one where we need to see what direction Light wants to take the game and whether or not Tyson is going to take a third base very quickly.
Yeah. Is he going to try to just take that really quick third, go into Reaver, something like that? The SCV comes in for a beautiful scout and sees the timing of that cybernetics core, so that is like one of the most useful scouts you can get. You're just completely sure of the timings of everything at this point. And yeah, I mean, this is honestly, this looks pretty standard for a pro level game on this map.
Sure. We have the Robo before the Dragoon range, which is pretty common. Reaver drops can be very strong. We do see some Terrans try to directly counter that by instantly getting a Wraith and trying to punish. And now we've got the two factories coming down here for Light. So the tech lead is pretty substantial here for Tyson, but it should be noted that right now there's nothing the Protoss can do to harm the Terran. The Terran economically is honestly not in a bad spot at all.
Yeah, he's going to be just slightly behind as far as that worker count goes, but as you said, it's not really that big of a deal right now. But yeah, I think the Robo coming up is where there's a lot of strength here for Tyson. Now look, he looks like he's going to make a Nexus. Look at how quick that is. He's making this Nexus off of a Zealot. So that's a third Nexus at 5 minutes off of a Zealot and a Robo after gas stealing a Nexus first. And this shows just how far you can push some of these build orders. And I got to tell you what, this is safe too. Like, Light is adding factories. I don't know that he's going to be able to bust it. Maybe, we'll see. But like, this is a pretty tried and tested build that we see here from Tyson.
I mean, I think there's a chance Terran can try to punish this. It seems like Light's pretty confident about that, too. I mean, this is literally as fast of a third CC as you could pretty much get. I mean, like, Dragoon range started now. We should note that he did not go for Reaver tech here, or at least I don't see it on the screen yet.
I don't see it.
This is basically a bit of a new iteration on the ever-evolving fast expand opening for Protoss, and the way that Terran responds to it is to maybe just try to get that third Nexus out fast, and then you might even want to hard cut probes after the third Nexus gets the transfer and just try to make as many Dragoons as possible, because it is a bit predictable that the Terran's going to do this. We do see some games where the Terran also gets crazy and takes a third base, but that's not one of them here.
Yeah.
And it's also very easy for Protoss to scout that if that's the case, so he knows that's not what's coming.
Yeah, and I think this map in particular, like if it's polyploid, I think the third base is really something that can be done. Here, though, I think it's a lot tougher on Eclipse to end up holding that long term. Now, Tyson's Observer going to come down, and he's going to be able to spot that this is a very fast 4 factory. There's not that many tanks yet, though. It looks like he's going to move out with 3. That's a good amount of Marines, though. 7 full health Marines and 3 siege tanks. I mean, you can chew through a lot of Dragoons with that.
Yeah, it takes 4 shots to kill a Marine from a Dragoon, 6 to kill a Vulture, and 8 to kill a tank, and that really makes the Marines extremely tanky and extremely good at soaking damage when the push comes here. So Tyson wants to pick a fight here in the middle of the map before Terran can just siege up or lay spider mines. But behind that, Light has set up a pretty good trap here, putting these spider mines behind this.
Yeah.
And I think he might think he's avoiding this when in fact he's going to go right into the jaws of the beast here, taking quite a bit of damage. 2 Vultures run up into the main here. And even though I think that Tyson may win this fight down here on the ground, I worry about how many probes Tyson's going to lose here in his main.
Yeah, that is really the problem. Like, Light has certainly tactically outdone Tyson here. And laying some great mines. Like, this is very, very strong micro we see out of Light during all this. And his vultures are still alive in that main base. A lot of things going wrong for Tyson.
Yeah, this is a lot of worker kills. And although it's been a back and forth outside, this is what I was worried about when I saw Tyson go for a build like this, is you don't really have everything covered, right? I mean, he basically lost the fight in the middle of the map, and he managed to not keep his probes alive over here. So this game probably should not go on for much longer. Terran can pretty easily siege up out here, do all the damage he needs to do, and bottleneck the Protoss from coming out and taking fights, and then send 1 or 2 tanks up here over to the third base and try to take a fight there. But a bit of an overextension here with these vultures. Got a little bit too aggressive there and bled off a couple. And, you know, when you start to lose that vulture count, it becomes much easier for the Protoss to just walk up and try to take shots at the tank.
Yeah, I got to say, the real saving grace so far this game, I mean, obviously, Light had some great micro in the big engagement, but those 2 vultures that got in Tastosis, I think, had like 10+ probe kills, which is just gigantic. But you can see Tyson has a big army here. He's coming forward with these Dragoons. We'll see if he can pick off all of these tanks. He is microing forward reasonably well, getting a lot of shots off on those vultures, unfortunately, but is going to be able to pick off these tanks. He saves all of his bases, and he is up like almost 40 supply after that.
That's pretty crazy. I think Light really bungled that when he had all those vultures come in and he lost them behind the pylons at the natural. I think if he had a more steady hand when trying to take that fight, it could be different. But at this point in time, we see that Light has basically just thrown down more and more factories. He can't dial the game back into a macro game. It's not over yet, but Tyson has an essential piece of the puzzle to victory that may make this extremely difficult for Terran to win, and that's because he has a shuttle and a Reaver. When you get the Reaver, speed or no speed for the shuttle, you can really start to get a couple shots off on tanks or vultures here or there where, you know, if you get a couple that connect, you're in a winning position.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to pop a lot of vultures or put a ton of damage onto those siege tanks, which is so powerful in slowing the push down a bit. Look at this. He's taking a 4th Nexus.
He's crazy, dude.
That does feel a little bit like overkill, but, I mean, look at his supply right now. He does have a hell of a lot.
Well, he's cut probes for a little bit, so basically he's going to try to just get by with what he's got and just mass produce, transfer the few additional probes at each base over to that 4th, and clobber the next incoming attack. Now, Light is sending these vultures out in small waves, and this is neither good nor bad. It really depends on how the engagements go. One of the problems when you send little squads of vultures out is if you kill off all the mines and then kill the vultures, you don't have as thick and juicy of an army as you would had you kept them.
Yeah.
And so even killing these probes, like, that's very good, right, for Light. I'm surprised he got in there. But at the same time, this is not going to be anything that can buffer in that fight in the long run. And to some extent, Tyson may have already made the army that he needed to get to the position where he's probably going to win this game.
Yeah, I got to say, like, a great job from Light on the harassment. He's giving himself every opportunity to make something happen, but he has to make more happen than what he has already. Now, he walks around into this great position. This is a really kind of sneaky way that you can walk around and get a strong position that's hard to attack into. And look at this. Beautifully placed. The vultures coming back. That's going to be hard to break for Tyson.
That was insane when he got those probes. And he might be able to get the jump on him here. If he can just throw down a couple of turrets and get a fortified position here, it's going to be tough for a Protoss to fight back, especially with observers being dropped here. He does kill off one of those. Oh, no. I can't believe that. He just killed off the shuttle and the Reaver, and now it's just some Dragoons and Zealots. So the only way that Tyson can recover from this position, by the way, he was winning, but he might be losing now, is if he can try to hit this with a flank and push down in here. I think he's going to have enough to do that, by the way.
Yeah, I think he will be able to kill off these tanks, but it's super cost inefficient. Like, Light is having some great shots. Zealots, though, getting on top of these siege tanks, A bigger rally from Light is continuing to come down. You can see, look, like, I'm Tasteless. He just killed twice the supply that he had with that setup, and in fact still has units left over.
Yeah, you know, the turrets, it doesn't seem like they play a role there, but honestly, drawing some of those extra Dragoon shots and keeping some of those attacking units back. This, by the way, could go either way now. I'm kind of stunned that Light actually held that. That's pretty impressive. But at the same time, you know, there is this sparse Terran army now, and you have to imagine all these gateways are queuing up with more and more units. The next minute or two is going to be maybe the most pivotal in this match because it could go either way.
Yeah. I mean, Light has a lot of units rallying down right now, but don't forget that if Tyson ends up holding this, he's on 4 bases against 2.
Right.
So that's going to be a huge advantage to him. Now he's trying to drag some of those mines forward, backs up against the siege mode. His observer, of course, seeing absolutely everything that's happening. No probes actually at that 4th base, like 2-3 probes, that's it.
Right.
So his economy not as good as he wants it to be right now.
And let's also point out that there's basically 1 Dragoon that's not over here at the natural entrance. So Tyson, pretty quickly here, is not going to have the ability to flank, which means that, and we're seeing this happen now, Light is going to have a couple of these the units break off from the group and come across here and try to take some fights over at these additional bases. And I mean, this has been a nail-biter of a match, but if Protoss can't break free and get the ability to have fluid movement on the map, I think Terran will still win this despite how well Protoss has done at trying to maintain growth.
Yeah. I mean, Light is pelting that 4th base. I can see on the minimap he's making his 3rd command center at the top part of his main base. So he's getting ready to take another base himself. And, I mean, once that gets up, when he's already in a position like this, it becomes Light's game to lose. So looking very good for our Terran player, despite a semi-rough opening in some ways. But Tyson still has a slight opportunity to break through here. The thing is, the more that I see rallied up, the more I look at this army of Tyson, I just shake my head. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to break through this crazy contain.
Yeah, one thing about this map specifically is you don't really have other spots on the map to make gateways. Most of this map is not buildable terrain. So when the Protoss gets contained, a lot of times, and by the way, Protoss are always at a disadvantage if they can't get a surround and have an open area against the Terran. And so I think now, despite, you know, Tyson having a pretty impressive fight throughout this series, we're sort of in the very, very, I would say, end of this as far as ways that Protoss can recover. He's going to try to break out. Again, if Protoss can't break free from this position, inevitably Protoss will lose. 1 or 2 siege tanks will filter up to the 4th and the 3rd, and we can see right now there's no way Tyson is getting out of here.
No.
This has been a brilliant game here by Light.
Yeah, Light did a very good job there. The tactical plays with the Vultures at the very beginning, like those 2 Vultures basically won him the game. He ran mines around behind Tyson's army as he went up with his push, and then ran them in and got over 10 probe kills in the main base. And honestly, if Tyson had either blocked those Vultures from getting into his main base or microed a little bit better against the initial push of Light, I think he wins this game pretty cleanly, honestly. Because he still, after all that went wrong, stopped the push and was up like 40 supply. But just his army movement, his scouting, it just wasn't up to the level of Light.
We see a lot of good Protoss players when they're trying to take a fight in the middle of the map. A lot of them will plug up their entrance with a pylon or a gateway, whatever fits.
Yeah.
And either cancel it or kill it later, just because the Vulture run by can be so devastating.
Yeah. And honestly, like his units coming out to meet the push, sometimes you feel like you need every unit possible. Leaving 1 Dragoon in the wall will not, like, it's not going to change the outcome of the battle. Not in this situation, right? It's like 3 siege tanks that you're up against, whereas it's going to save you 10 probes. So definitely a few little mistakes here from Tyson, but I think we could see that was a very modern opening, and with a little bit of cleaning up, he's going to be really strong.
Guys, we're going to a quick break. Coming up next, Bisu versus Sacsri. Do not go away.
Coming 힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 뭐야?
새로운 나를 만든다.
나의 레벨은 다르다. 어너더 레벨 핫식스.
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 나를 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어너더 레벨 핫식스.
핫식스와 함께하는 ASL 시즌.
All right, we are back, and a big thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the ASL English cast, check it out on patreon.com/ASL English. We are so happy to be doing yet another year of the ASL. And I got to tell you what, Tastosis, if it keeps improving at this rate, like that game was better than Group A. Straight up
sure.
already. So
We're already out of the woods, man.
Yeah.
And, I mean, thank God. We were just talking on the break, like, okay, that was a good game. That was fun. Yeah, a special thanks to everybody on Patreon. And I'm actually loving this new format because we can get these interviews translated. We can kind of polish this in a way that's a bit different. And the truth is, most people end up watching the VODs. Not many people can watch it live because of time constraints. So
yeah,
we're sort of doing like a Netflix or HBO series tournament style thing now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Just avoid the spoilers. This is, you know, gamer Game of Thrones here with a much better ending, I promise.
Yes, no doubt about that. Oh my God! No, to be fair, we did have that one KSL that was like 8 Protoss in the round of 8, right? So that would be basically Game of Thrones.
I was in heaven, Artosis. That was peak StarCraft for me. Was just watching PvP all day.
Don't tell me you learned anything when Rain was doing builds that were getting countered and still winning. Okay, nothing there made sense.
So tonight we're gonna have Bisu playing. Now, you know, I think for all the Protoss players watching, this is, of course, a guy I remember just watching him play from my bedroom in Kansas. You know, me and my brother would stay up, and especially the PVZs we love to watch because we would both, you know, get so much out of it, Sean being a Zerg player. But I don't know how Bisu's going to perform here now. He's taken a little bit of a hiatus. He's back now. And honestly, Sacsri is a Zerg you never want to underestimate. Everybody also talks about how strong of a player he is and how much they respect him.
Yeah. No, he's a great player. You know, there was that season of ASL where he was the only guy that took a map off Flash before the finals. And, like, I always remember that. It was a beautiful tactical play and everything.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually lucky enough or maybe unlucky enough to be eliminated from the ASL qualifiers by Sacsri. I got to tell you, man, it's a different thing playing these pro Zergs. Just, He's brutally strong, but Bisu is like the original Mini, okay? Mini doesn't exist without Bisu.
I could not agree more. Bisu really revolutionized the race, but especially this matchup. We'll talk more about that as we go into our game. It's going to be on Eclipse again. PVZ, if we get into a late game, it's a real headache on both sides. So this should be a lot of fun to see how they're going to approach this, whether they're going to try to make it action-packed at the start, or we're going to actually go into a macro PVZ on Eclipse. Guys, this is Game 2. The winner goes on to face off against Light in the winner's match here in Group B of the ASL.
게임을 시작합니다.
So we have Bisu in the top right, and we're going to have Sacsri in the bottom left. Tastosis, I got to say, you're really selling StarCraft 1 to all the fans out there. It's like, oh, if we get to the late game, it's a real headache for both sides. It's like, wait, why would I want to play this video game if we don't die to rushes, which are really frustrating, where you want to hit your desk, then no matter who I am in the game, I get a headache because it's such a pain. It's like, but yes, that's kind of the beauty, right? It's kind of like a very spicy food where like the little bit of pain is what you're looking for.
Yeah, the sweating gets all the toxins out. You know, it cleans you out.
Yeah, just like a late game PVZ.
That's so funny. You're talking about dying to rushes. Apparently, Artosis was watching my stream, and this was this game I played a couple days ago where, like, this guy had attacked my cannon. It was a PvP, and I saw he was going DT, so I made 2 cannons, and then he rushed it with the Zealot and the 2 Dragoons. and like I barely kept the cannon alive, and he just typed in GG, and I typed in GG back, and as I typed that in, he ran up with the DT and hit the cannon, ran around my Dragoons. I probably could have body blocked it, but yeah,
that was
we
so
all know
funny.
that salt, man.
Yeah. Headache for all. By the way, we did just see the stats, and Bisu is actually still has a higher win rate in Protoss vs. Zerg in ASL than Mini does. Just to try to put into perspective. Now, to be fair, Mini has played a decent amount more games than Bisu, so we'll see if Bisu can keep that super high win rate. He's at like 63.5% in this matchup, which, by the way, guys, that's gigantic at pro-level StarCraft. It's very rare. Like, only the very best pros. A lot of champion-level players are at like 55%.
Right. Yeah, it's extremely difficult to get over, more than half wins, even at the highest level, because you're basically playing the very, very best players there are out there. We have a slightly late spawning pool, just by a couple seconds, which, if you're going to do a gateway opening here, that actually does matter. Now, Bisu is someone who I think got phenomenally good at this matchup by pretty much understanding the Zerg better than a lot of Zergs understand themselves. We really never saw players before able to punish Zergs in so many different ways at once, whether that be try and hit their overlords at different points in time, harassing workers, manipulating tech, forcing lings out. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. Now, on this map, and this, by the way, if he gets this drone, which couldn't end up be...
Oh my god. Bisu's micro really is next level. Look at this. Like, he's blocking the hatchery. It's one probe against 2 drones, and he's winning. It's like, what am I even looking at? That's not the way that's supposed to go.
A funny bug where the drone tries to become the hatchery, and it's blocked, but then it remains sort of submerged in the ground.
Yep. Now the probe going after that drone once again as Zealot puts a ton of damage. I think does he have to cancel that hatchery?
Probably not, but let's see. This is a pretty good pressure point to try to hit because, first of all, you can block the ramp with the probe and the Zealot, or 2 Zealots even. You also can run behind the minerals, but it seems like he's going to try to pull back, get the Nexus up, and then try to play it safe. So he's basically forced out a decent number of workers. I'm sorry, of lings.
Yeah.
And hasn't really been punished for it, and he didn't overextend. And this is really where Bisu is such an impressive player to try to follow because he really. God, Sacsri's ling micro is insane, dude.
Yeah.
Did you see that? That was
Really
crazy.
good. That was really good.
But he's forced lings. He did trade pretty effectively, and now he's scouting the main for the Hydra Den, and then he does a delayed attack in here. So, this is one of the things in StarCraft. I think out of all the matchups that's very difficult to actually teach somebody. You really need a lot of experience to be able to kind of navigate and key into all the nuance that's happening around you to decide whether or not your attacks are going to work or you can get away with them. And really, Bisu's done that here. He's now going to be in here with 3 Zealots.
God.
Now, you're never really supposed to kill we're supposed to be able to kill the hatchery here. In this situation, you're really trying to, pick favorable fights with lings, but look at this, man. The hatchery's at half health. Bisu's just now thrown down the Stargate.
Yeah.
The cannon was fairly delayed as well here, and he's really done quite a lot with very little.
This is Bisu for you, right? Like, and it looks different from Mini too, to be honest. Like the 2 best PvZ players ever. It's so different from Bisu. There's like some beautiful finesse to it. It's not even like. Doesn't it feel like Mini, when you watch him, it's like these amazing pre-planned strategies to tear people apart, and then with Bisu, you're like, he's an angel when he plays.
Yeah, no, he just sort of has an understanding of what he needs to do at any given situation. Like, this is all tactics. This isn't strategy, really. This is him kind of getting there, looking at the lings and the drones, the position of everything, and saying, okay, yeah, I kind of just know what I need to do here. And notice that he sent out even 2 more lings here, or 2 more Zealots, excuse me.
Well, that hatchery is so low, Tasteless. Do you think he can just make a scout and right-click it and just kill it?
That would be funny. But look, he's even used this Zealot here to kind of draw these lings away. Right now, Sacsri probably assumes that the pressure's over, and now he's going to start losing drones. I mean, this is so impressive.
Yeah, Bisu is like literally everywhere right now. He has one Zealot holding off all the Lings at the top, so these two Zealots walk in and start killing drones and causing lost mining time. Like he's putting on such a clinic of PvZ. This is like we are watching art right now.
Yeah, he really just gets the ebb and the flow of how to move around, and to the uninitiated, it can just look like Zealots are randomly popping up and hitting spots. He's perfectly avoiding any unfavorable fight. And even now, it looks like the Corsair is going to kill that Overlord, I believe, right before the Spire finishes? Oh, maybe right after. I was going to say, this would be a pretty insane supply block. Because I think the Spire just finished. I don't think Scourge are going to be out yet. This is another key moment in the matchup where if you can actually hiccup the production of Mutas and Scourge, things get very, very tough for the Zerg to deal with.
This is, like... I mean, I don't want to sit here and just praise Bisu all day, but I also need to because it's my job. And I'm like watching this right now, and there's just this other level of amazingness that we're seeing. Like Bisu has so thoroughly dismantled Sacsri, who is one of the best players in the world. Like, look at this. His drone count in the main, terrible. Look at his drones overall. They look like, his economy looks like garbage. He's been
like
supply blocked forever. Yeah, no, everything is wrong right now.
This really shows how Bisu's a lot like an incredible boxer or something like that. Like he comes in and just all of his jabs connect. He's able to weave and bob. And keep in mind, despite Zealots being stronger units than Zerglings, Zerglings are actually better units overall. They're faster. They can get more easily surrounded. So he's very, very careful with how he moves.
Oh my God, Tastosis. But look at this. The Lings getting in on top of the cannons immediately. The Zealots have to turn around and go home. Now, speed finishes for these Zealots. So it seems as if he is going to be able to block that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like too much damage is still.
Yeah, the problem now is that, there's just a couple Hydras here. And, Bisu's going to be barreling across the map. I wish we could click on a Zealot. I want to see if he got +1 armor or attack.
I think it's attack.
Armor's becoming more trending to get.
First? Armor first?
Yeah, okay, he does get attack here. This is the old Bisu still. And he comes out now. And this is, we've seen Bisu in so many games like this. He has the Zealots come in here and hit the Hydras, and this means the Hydras can't really defend these Overlords. And so he just starts to pick off Overlords. We already have him supply blocked. Now the Hydras could eventually clean up the Zealots, but he's going to keep roaming. He wants to basically hammer down economically the Zerg, where all the Hydras that Zerg has, that's the only Hydras that Zerg have.
And he's going to kill every Overlord, Tastosis. We're about to be at 44 of 4 supply. Oh my, or a 5 supply here. Oh, that
5 hatches.
Like, this is just, it looks so silly.
Well, he's just so insanely good at what he's doing, and he's just going to check for where the Overlords are not. We have to assume there's cannons back at home. But, if there's cannons that are up and Psystorm's done, these Hydras can't really do anything. Zerg is still supply blocked, mind you.
Oh, and now the DT going to go in and kill all the drones at that third base. Plenty of High Templars and cannons at the natural, so no real damage going to be dealt there. I can't even believe how one-sided this game is.
Yeah, and this is not how Zergs are just supposed to lose games. This is really somebody having such a good understanding of the opposing race that they can basically punish them at every possible weak spot. Yeah, and that DT gets away, by the way.
What? Of course it did. It's a Bisu DT. But yeah, what you said really rings true. It's like he knows Zerg better than Zerg players do. Like, he knows every single weakness. He is just such a stone-faced killer here.
And now the Robo's coming. The rest of the mid-game for Protoss is pretty straightforward. You get about 8 gateways up here. You get Dragoon range. Get the necessary number of Templars, and then, you have Observers, and you're kind of looking to come across the map and take a fight. Now, I didn't think Bisu was going to push out this quickly, but I guess, the damage he's done, he might, just say, well, we might want to just go for a kill move here. It's not like, the Hydras can defend the Overlords again, especially with Zealot, High Templar coming up here.
Yeah, this is looking like a pretty fearsome army here for Bisu as well. It does have that Robo finishing up, so you can get into observers if need be. Sacsri, like, what would be the comeback plan here? I don't think you can even live through this attack.
Well, the Hydras are going to try to snipe these Templars, and that's definitely what you want to try to do. If he can kill off 1 or 2 Templars, that's really the goal here. He does get one. Don't count Hydras out if they do snipe all the Templars. Protoss really can't play this matchup at all without having a Psystorm, but Lurker Eggs are going to come down. This is a very decisive play to opt to Storm and kill the Lurker Eggs, and basically just break in here and do whatever damage he can get away with.
Yeah, another couple Lurker Eggs do end up going up here. The Hydra's coming in for the flank. A nice Storm on them, forcing them back for a moment. Another Storm blankets them as the Templars make themselves into an Archon, and the Zealots are free everywhere here in the main and natural, going after the Spire. A ton more Zealots coming down. I think we're going to see GG from Sacsri at any moment.
Yeah, this has just been an S-class game here from Bisu. I mean, Sacsri's barely been hanging on as the damage just continues to mount. We see Sacsri losing this game in so many different ways at once. In fact, supply blocked again. Another attack comes up here. He won't even have the ability to get these Lurkers out. I think the Hydralisk Den was killed too. So, I mean, this game is basically over.
Yeah.
GG.
Wow.
Damn, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, the Hydralisk Den was not killed.
Well,
sorry, everybody.
Look, it literally doesn't even matter. Sacsri himself was killed. Okay, this was an absolute murder, and Bisu looking in top form. A rough game for Sacsri, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, that was about as impressive as a PvZ can get, and each little attack that Bisu did back there was one layer in the victory, right? I mean, he basically had about, 10 to 12 tiny little victories, good plays, smart moves that outpositioned Sacsri consistently. Sacsri never got to do any of the things he had planned this game. He was basically on the defense and getting further and further behind, and ultimately Bisu just surpassed him and won the game.
Yeah, it really beautifully done, and that means that we are going to end up having Light against Bisu for the winner of the group. That is the match that I think everyone tuning in tonight has wanted to see. So we'll jump to a quick commercial break. When we come back, Bisu versus Light.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to go to what I think is probably the most exciting, by far, match of the day. It's going to be Bisu versus Light. Bisu played just immaculately. Light looking very fearsome, and of course playing so strongly in the last couple ASL seasons. I am so excited to see what's going to happen, and it's all going to take place on Metaverse.
Yeah, this should be really interesting. We haven't seen games here as of yet. As you can see, it's a 4-player map. We have some really interesting mineral nodes that you can kind of mine through, like smaller ones, to get into other areas. You see that being circled over there. We also have little blockers at those expansions, so you do have to get some units in there. You can't just like sneak in and expand right off the beginning, right? You can't like pop a drone or a probe or float a command center over for the free base. But yeah, it's definitely a very different looking map.
Yeah, this is going to be. There's a chance that something really insane could happen right at the start here. It's a map that, tournament-wise, we've really not unpacked at all. There do seem to be some ideas, some possible cheeses, some new paths, some alternate ways to expand. So watching these two players play, in the ASL's first time on this map, I really got to watch this closely. Same with you, Artosis. There might be a lot of interesting things that could go down.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what they actually have ended up being planned for the map. As you see, there's also like the Xel'Naga towers there on the edges or temples or whatever the hell they're called, those big destructible buildings. So definitely a lot of different ways to open up the sides of the map.
Now, I don't know, man. I'm just so excited to see these two guys duke it out. I don't know as far as, is this a map that's easy for Terran to push on? I don't know if, you want Arbiter Tech over Carrier Tech. I don't know if we're just going to see them both play very vanilla styles. I'm ready for anything.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly how it'll go. It looks to me, Tastosis, like a carrier map. There's so many terrain blockers.
Right.
Like it's like one of those maps like Outsider or something where the edge of the map is kind of different from the middle, and anytime that's the case, carriers are strong.
ASL
But
시즌
who knows,
13.
man? Bisu could do
전투
anything.
준비 완료.
All right, guys, we're ready to go into Game 3. The winner of this match is the first player to advance from Group B in the round of 24 in the ASL.
메타버스에서 게임을 시작합니다.
All right, top right we have Bisu. And bottom right we have Light. So one thing to mention, them being on the same side of the map. They are sharing that kind of like 3 o'clock-ish area where it does have those temples that you can destroy to go through. So we might see that area played in a bit more because of that.
Yeah. Positions like this do allow for some unique things that could happen, because of the, that area over there. Yeah, I mean, we have, with both players on the right side here, I mean, it's going to be pretty clear that Protoss wants to keep reaching out towards the far left as the game will continue to unravel. Although it does seem like, and I could be wrong about this, it does seem like it can be a little bit tough to get a ton of expansions here for Protoss comfortably. I think, maybe I'm wrong. Again, this map is very new, and the easiest way to learn about these maps is to let the 2 players play it out on them, but it does seem like you're pretty pushable here at your third for the Terran.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I mean, it looks pretty clear that the third base should be those set of mineral patches and gas, like, that kind of leads to the expansion behind it, but
yeah,
I guess the fourth base is where I'm kind of wondering where Bisu will end up wanting to take that. Like, will he take the other main's natural or other main's main base or something like that? Normally, those types of areas are reserved for 5th bases, but it doesn't seem like there's any other good 4th one.
Oh, this is crazy.
Oh, man.
That's crazy. So he did a extremely quick scout.
Yeah.
And, fortune favors the bold here. He managed to find the Terran and do the gas steal. Now, in theory, this is not... how do I say this? Like, he's scouting early because he first of all was doing a control build where he gets a Zealot right away. But the fact that he was fortunate enough to then find the Terran in the first scout and then steal the gas means Light is going to be playing a game he probably didn't prep for, to be honest.
Yeah, not only didn't prep for, oh my god, he loses an SCV to that probe as well. It's so painful. But gas steals on 4-player maps are like 100 times stronger than on 2-player maps. On 2-player maps, you already have builds super prepared, like you mentioned, to deal with that, but also you know where they're at, so you can time your scout precisely to figure out what you need to know to make your build work out. Here, like, okay, he sees the angle the Zealot comes in from because he walked his Marine far down. So that was fortuitous, right? Like, that's good that that happened, because otherwise, he might scout in the wrong direction, just have no idea what Bisu's doing for a very long time.
And behind this, we have a Nexus coming down. Because the Zealots are already here. And by the way, I want to point out, because we saw a gas steal earlier, this is extremely different from a Nexus first. The gateway pressure gas steal, very different from a gas steal Nexus right away. And one of the reasons because of that is that you can't just get another base very easily. The Zealots are stronger than the Marines. There are instances where you can body block with the SCVs, but you can see here, sometimes the Zealots will slip through.
Tastosis, this is bad news right now for Light. He just lost all of his Marines to the Zealots while Bisu's taking a Nexus. Like, when he kept making the Marines, I was like, oh, I guess maybe he's going to do a Marine SCV rush. But when you only lose 1 Zealot and kill, like, 4 Marines, you're already in a terrible spot. But the fact that Bisu's Nexus is almost done, on top of that, this is terrible for Light.
And there's really no way to safely get this command center up. So Bisu's going to punish this. We're seeing a lot of desperation here in the way that Light's playing this. No fault, of course, to him, but he's in such a bad spot. A forced cancel, and I actually got confused there for a second. He actually forced a probe through the bottom, so I think he wants to basically make a proxy robo.
Yeah.
And try to do a surprise Reaver drop, and there's really no way for Terran to scout that, by the way.
Yeah, he's not going to have too good of an idea. Like, he might be able to get up here and see things are missing, but no, a probe blocking that ramp. I mean, either way, if they're blocking the ramp after an opening like this, you have to get some turrets anyways. But it looks like Light is adding 2 factories. Now, the problem is that the factories are very, 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 very late. Right? Like, a regularly timed factory in this matchup that may allow you to put some real pressure on a Protoss player would start in the 2-minute 30-second range. These both started after 4 minutes. So it's hard to imagine that Light is going to find a lot of success here.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost impossible to recover from. I think the follow-up here from Bisu is so good to actually get the robo here and to basically prep for a Reaver drop. And, he can see right now that there's no second command center. So, I mean, it's very obvious that you have to be basically doing a 2-factory, maybe a Vulture drop, but you get the idea. Some kind of an attack early on. And so, to have the Reaver basically ready to drop probably when the Terran leaves his base, and you can basically send the Reaver then up with the rest of your army to help defend. I mean, it's so hard for me to imagine any Terran player in the entire world recovering this.
Yeah.
And with Bisu at the driving wheel, I just don't see any real way that he can easily get out of this.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But the one thing I find interesting from Light is he did start the command center after the 2 factories, so that'll give him a little bit of a follow-up as a possibility.
True. It's not an all-in.
Yeah. Also, the Reaver is going to be making outside of Light's main, where if it was actually in Bisu's base, that would be a bit better, right? Like, this obviously can hit Light quicker, but the Reaver can't be used on defense. It's like such a long way to fly it back. So maybe there's some world in which Light gets a really great engagement here. Oh, well, that's a lot of units, so maybe not.
Bisu basically prepped for a punish for a later command center, but in fact, it's a 2-factory and a very late command center. So, I mean, you are right, Artosis. There may be some opportunities here. Very good block. Oh, my God, Bisu's so good. And the battery's going to finish. The Vultures are kind of staggering behind. The mines are getting cleared. The battery's being used, and a Reaver is going to be inbound here shortly. Pulls the probes away at the last second when he can confirm that, in fact, he's won that fight. And now, when we get a glimpse of Light's home base, there is nothing to fight. No turret in sight. That's my poem.
And
yeah, I mean,
this is going to bite. Here comes the Reaver. Like, he's starting some turrets now. But the Reaver is going to cause some problems. Bisu, at this point, can just kind of sit back and macro. He's not going to be taking any damage. It's a tough situation here for Light. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's not having great openers against Protoss here today with all these gas steals going on.
Yeah, and now the Dragoons are going to come down here, and I don't know that Siege Mode is done. Oh, he's got to be careful. He could end up losing this shuttle. In fact, he will lose the shuttle. But I think the Reaver may already be present enough to basically just take this fight. Yeah, that should be GG. We'll see if Light... Yeah, there he is. I mean, honestly, another S-class game from Bisu. He did get very fortunate finding him right away, doing the gas steal, and then capitalizing on the fact that on this map you can get behind the minerals with the probe pylon glitch, set up a Reaver, and there's no way for them to look for it at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, props to Bisu. He advances. I'm sure Protoss players around the world are going to be excited to see how he's going to perform here. Clearly, he was more than ready to advance out of this group. Now, Light, maybe the best Terran player in ASL, is not eliminated yet, but I'll tell you, dude, Tyson didn't look half bad, and Sacsri, I think he's a very good ZBT player. So good luck to Light as he tries to continue to fight for his chance to get to the round of 16.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. Like, I think both those players do have potential to kill Light, although he should still be favored. These first 2 maps, though, not going his way, right? Like, I mean, Eclipse is Well, I mean, he ended up winning Eclipse, but he was in a kind of a poor position. And then this game with that gas steal, you could see him muttering to himself afterwards. Light, not too happy having to go to that final match.
We're going to have an interview with Bisu now and see how he's feeling. He has advanced to the round of 16 in such an impressive fashion. Let's go to that interview now.
ASL 시즌 13 24강 비조 경기 함께하고 계십니다. 오늘의 첫 번째 16강 진출자 김태경 선수 만나보겠습니다. 축하드립니다.
감사합니다.
돌아온 김태경 선수, 이 경기 전에는 본인의 기량 40-50% 정도 올라온 것 같다라고 하셨는데 오늘 깔끔하게 2승으로 16강에 진출하셨습니다. 경기를 하면서 본인의 기량 조금 더 되찾은 것 같은데요?
솔직히 연습할 때는 많이 졌어요. 영진이랑 연습을 했는데 그때는 다 져가지고 자신감이 없었는데 오늘 여기 와가지고 이제 손 풀다 보니까 좀 게임이 은근히 잘 되더라고요. 근데 승자전 예운이랑 할 때부터 좀 게임이 잘 돼가지고 재우한테도 좀 잘 통하지 않을까 이런 생각이 들었는데 잘 풀려가지고 다행인 것 같아요.
오늘 두 경기 모두 이 초반에 질럿 견제가 굉장히 매섭게 들어갔습니다. 이혜원 선수와의 저그전, 워낙 또 김태경 선수는 저그전 잘하는 선수이기 때문에 강하다라는 느낌을 받았는데 이재호 선수와의 승자전은 예상하기 힘든 방식으로 경기가 좀 흘러갔어요. 메타버스라는 맵에서 가스러시의 질럿 견제까지 좀 어떻게 준비를 해오셨을까요?
원래 가스러시가 안 되는 걸로 알고 있는데 재호가 배럭 더블을 준비했던 것 같아요. 그래서 이제 가스러시가 통하면서 재호가 당황했는지 타이밍을 좀 잃었던 것 같아요. 그때 이제 제가 딱 질럿이 도착해서 마린 2-3마리 잡으니까 그때부터 좀 게임이 저한테 길어지더라고요. 이렇게 이기는 건가 이제 손이 좀 그때부터 떨려가지고 좀 당황했어요. 저도 너무 잘 풀려가지고.
네, 질럿 견제 이후의 플레이도 굉장히 본인의 유리한 점을 잘 활용하면서 깔끔하게 경기를 좀 마무리하셨던 것 같습니다. 자, 16강에서 김태경 선수를 만날 수 있게 됐습니다. 앞으로의 좀 행복 기대해봐도 좋을까요?
제가 근데 항상 16강에서 떨어졌어요. 최근에. 온라인에선 그래도 전 잘한다고 나름 생각했는데 그때마다 떨어졌는데 이번엔 좀 온라인에서 지금 못하거든요. 오프라인에서라도 좀 잘했으면 좋겠어요.
조지명식에서 김태경 선수가 원하는 조를 한번 만들어 볼 수 있을지도 굉장히 기대가 됩니다. 마지막으로 하고 싶은 말씀 있으실까요?
제가 이번에 AS 준비를 하면서 원래는 수범이, 준호, 호선이 이렇게 연습을 했는데 이번엔 진짜 이기고 싶어가지고 제동이랑 영진이랑 선재랑 이렇게 잘하는 선수들로 좀 준비를 했어요. 연습 상대가 좋아서 그런지 잘 이겼던 것 같고 그들한테도 너무 고맙고요. 또 이제 응원해주고 있을 우리 염석대 멤버들 너무 고맙고 비임이랑 다닝이라고 있거든요. 그 두 친구가 카톡으로 용이 오빠 화이팅이라고 했는데 둘한테 너무 고맙다고 전하고 싶고 또 마지막으로 제가 좀 ASL을 옛날에 이제 은퇴한다는 식으로 말을 했었는데 이제 갚아야 될 게 제가 많습니다. 제가 우승하고 갚고 싶고 제가 좀 떨려가지고 지금 진짜 너무 죄송하고 항상 감사드립니다. 저를 응원해 주셨던 분들께 정말 전하고 싶고 제가 2주 동안 이제 준비를 잘 해서 경기력이 지금 안 좋은데 준비 잘 해서 16강 때 잘 하도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 김태경 선수 이번 시즌 본인이 보여주고 싶은 모습 마음껏 보여줄 수 있기를 기대해 보겠습니다. 다시 한번 진출 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다.
자, 이렇게 해서 오늘의 첫 번째 16강 진출자 김태경 선수와 함께했고요. 저는 잠시 후에 두 번째 진출자와 돌아오겠습니다.
힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 보여.
새로운 나를 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6. 어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 날을 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
What's up, everybody? We're back, and we're ready to eliminate one of these two players. Now, so far, everything has kind of gone the way you'd expect it. We did see Bisu beat Light. I guess that match could have gone either way. But, you know, the rest of the ASL, we've had a lot of very predictable results. But I think with these two players, it's pretty hard to call who's going to take it. You know, Tyson did look very strong. Sacsri, I don't think he has to worry about the kind of game that he played against Bisu happening here, but this should be a pretty interesting match and one that's very exciting to see who's going to actually take it.
Yeah. Do you have anyone you're leaning towards here?
I think maybe Sacsri a little bit.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm not married to that idea, you know, but we've had Sacsri around for a long time. You know, he's always been good. StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2, this guy's just been a solid player all around, and he certainly knows how to deliver. I don't think he's going to be shaken up by that Bisu loss. I mean, Bisu just crushed through this group. I don't think so.
Okay, because, like, I mean, he was so destroyed. It was like one of those Dragon Ball Z fights where there was only one cell left of Sacsri's body after the battle. Like,
yeah.
So if he's regenerated all the way, he definitely could take out Tyson. But I mean, that was a brutal loss. And Tyson, I mean, he played well at the beginning against Light. We'll see if he can kind of get his nerves under control here. This guy, not with as much experience as any of the other players in the group. But here we go. It's match 4, the loser's match.
As it bleeds into me, then it's seeking for you. Tell them the story, tell them the truth. As it bleeds into me, then it's seeking for you.
메타버스에서 게임을 시작합니다.
So we have Tyson in that bottom right and Sacsri in the top left. Hey, they are pretty darn far from each other.
Yeah. This is very far spawns here. Now, the truth is, I don't feel like... I don't know about you, Artosis. I don't have very strong opinions on this map because this map is so weird, and, you know, I think we just have to kind of let the pros play it out here. But, yeah, I think in cross spawns, we should have probably a pretty long game here. I do feel like there is the chance that Zerg may be tempted to Hydra Bust or Ling Bust, just because that's always a safe play.
Yeah.
You know, that's as strong on a new map as it is on an old one, you know?
Sure. Now, that being said, with how far they are in cross spawns, it makes me feel like it might be less likely. One question I would have for you, now, I don't know if Tyson is the type of player who would do this, but looking at the layout of the map, do you think it's possible that we could see Corsair Reaver here?
Oh, I don't think so, but that would be cool if we did, for sure. I don't... You know, Corsair Reaver is a funny thing. You know, you can go Corsair Reaver if you're getting cheesed super hard. You kind of, like, you know, wiggle out of everything and then have some play to attack in here. But the thing about Corsair Reaver is it's really strong on maps that are very boxy. And, you know, it's hard for either side to really attack into each other. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like we've had any Corsair Reaver that's not some kind of early game gotcha play, like what Rain did, you know, in KSL. I don't feel like we've had any play like that.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because when we do have play like that, it's oftentimes on a map like this where, like, look, there's basically 4 island expansions, right?
Sure.
So, I mean,
well,
I could
not
see
just that, but I
shuttles
mean,
being pretty
the
darn
third
good.
base. Sorry to run over you. The third base is also you can drop Reavers from behind. So, I mean, there certainly is some merit to your idea. I just don't know if that's going to be the play that Tyson's ready to bring here. But, I mean, I welcome it.
It
if
feels
it is.
to me, Tastosis, that, like, the player Tyson probably wouldn't do that. But I feel like, you know what, if we see Snow maybe in his group end up playing on this map's PvZ, I could see maybe someone like him doing it.
Sure. I mean, one thing to note is that he went gateway first, so your tech is, a little bit delayed. The Nexus is a little bit delayed. You have some room to kind of take fights and try to deal damage. But then I wonder, the Reaver's going to be much, much later. I don't know. Let's see how the game pans out. By the way, the probe did not stop the third base. And, there's not an easy place to send a Zealot for fights here. If you try to run into the main, you're going to get there long after the Lings have hatched. So it looks like he wants to try to put some pressure on here.
We'll see if Sacsri can deal with Tyson's pressure a little bit better. Bisu would have already killed a hatchery by now.
What's funny about this is that, honestly, the distance from the gateway and the third base for the Zerg, it really isn't that far of a walk, is it, when you look at the minimap, right?
It feels kind of far, but I guess he did get up there at basically the same time as on Eclipse. Now, the Zealot's getting basically surrounded right away, and you can already kind of see the difference, not to speak poorly of Tyson, but between him and Bisu, right? It looks like a very different type of execution.
Yeah, I almost feel like Tyson saw Bisu's game and said, I'm going to do that, and it's already backfiring. The reason why Bisu was able to stick the Zealot at the third base and do it safely was because he had a little cranny in the back of that base to put the Zealot to take fights later on, and instead he sort of just threw 2 Zealots in here. This looks like my games, man. He just threw 2 Zealots in there. They were both killed off.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's just, he's lost control of the map. He's lost any scouting that he can get off here. I mean, it might be tempting for the Zerg to go Hydra Den. We'll see if that actually comes, but, it's tough for the, oh, there we go. So he is going to get the Hydra Den. And, again, it's always tempting if you're a Zerg player and you kill off the attacking Zealots and the probe right away to throw down that Hydra Den and try to do a very powerful Hydralisk rush.
Yeah. I mean, there really is so little intel right now. I wonder if we are going to see one of these 4 Zealot pushouts from Tyson that we sometimes see as a follow-up to figure out what's going on. But there's enough Zerglings out that I'd be a little bit nervous, right, about any sort of counterattack.
Yeah, I guess that's the big issue, right, is that there are enough Lings out here. They could run in there and kill that cannon. He is getting a Stargate, and so the Stargate is, you can kind of always get a Stargate, and it's fine, but a lot of times a Stargate is also, in a situation like this, a nod towards, I need to get a better idea of what's going on in this game, so I might as well make a Corsair and figure out, is there a layer coming, or if not that, you'll spot the Hydras while they're inbound. Tyson is actually playing a pretty clean game post, a disastrous pressure opening. But, if you look at, even with the second cannon finishing and the third one starting, I think the Corsair is it's on the way, but this isn't going to give him a lot of time. Tyson's almost playing, though, he's kind of assuming that this is going to be a rush like that.
Yeah.
I mean, blindly making 3 cannons.
Yeah, and the cannon placement looks really good to me as well, just spaced out a little bit, so it's a little bit hard to dive on top of that. So here come the Hydras, and they are going to start attacking immediately. That speed upgrade already done. Tyson adding on more cannons here.
Yeah, and the idea is to basically tear down the entrance here. And, the upgrade's going to be canceled. There's a lot of Lings here to tank as well. Once the gateway falls, I think Sacsri is going to pounce. I don't know if Protoss can hang on. Let's see what happens here.
Ooh, a great probe pull, though. He's actually blocking a lot of these Lings from getting in. The Zealots evaporate almost instantaneously. Now the Hydras and Lings getting on top of these cannons. Can he pop all of them? The probes fighting tooth and nail here. It seems like Tyson should just hold.
Yeah, now there's another forge being made over here at the entrance. I don't know if there is a forge in the main. Did Zerg keep making Hydras, or did he switch back into drones? That's the big question.
Yeah, we see some more macro hatches coming up right now, layer on the way, and drones popping out. So that might be the end of the rush there for Sacsri as he tries to recover that economy. And I have to ask, after all that, who do you think is ahead?
Oh, I think Sacsri is for sure. I mean, the fact that he killed the Forge and the Gateway, upgrades are slowed down. He had forced a couple of probes to basically sit there and, be ready to try to help defend. we've seen some Protosses go for like a DT drop if you're close. In this case, he tries to just slip out one Dark Templar and see if he can come across the map and get that. But again, this isn't, you know, there's not a lot of things Protoss can do with Templar tech to surprise the Zerg. And so, you know, a Dark Templar on foot, I just have a hard time imagining that's really going to mess up Sacsri. But I say that as we see no Overlord over here, so never mind.
Yeah, maybe he can actually get something done here. Like, if he doesn't notice, of course, you don't get that verbal cue. He ends up killing
immediately.
3. Yeah, that was quick reaction, so very nicely done.
You know, normally the Hydras are back there ready to defend, but it looks like he wants to try to take down this Xel'Naga Temple.
Yeah.
And get access to the island. And it's just north of this expansion here for Tyson.
Well, that is where Tyson looks to be thinking about taking a third base. But one thing to mention about those temples, for people who haven't seen those before, this is a way that you make it so that you can open up the map, but not too early. This is stacked temples. I don't know the exact number here, but at 5,000 health, and then all buildings have like a base 1 of armor, it takes a while, right? Those Hydras were there attacking for quite some time.
I'll tell you what, that was less temples than I thought it was.
Yeah.
But now he can come up here, and he's basically going to be able to shut down this base. But also, he has this sort of unique access to this area up here, and he might be able to get behind his opponent here. I mean, this is not a full wall here with the other temples, so you can kind of just walk back here. And Storm's good, but if you dodge the Storms and there's no Zealots or anything else to fight, I mean, the Hydras are going to remain a part of this threat.
Wow.
Oh, man, I don't know what Sacsri's doing.
He's doing a ton of damage, and the DT does get back in, gets a few more kills here. But this is terrible right now for poor Tyson. He's been making nothing but High Templars, so he doesn't even have anything to push these Hydras back right now.
Yeah, his idea was to just sit on a bunch of High Templars and have a lot of Storm when he pushed out, but then he had no Zealots to take that fight. And, you know, I'm not sure who exactly would be in the lead at this moment. I mean, Sacsri did lose a lot of drones to the DT, honestly, surprisingly. And that was only in part because Sacsri was trying to destroy those temples to get behind that. But this is a lot of pressure here onto Tyson. Tyson needs to get another base up here. And, you know, clearly Sacsri's pretty comfortable. He's taking his 4th base in a location that I think is a pretty manageable one. Oh, my God. It's going to move right through the blind spot. Look at that.
Yeah, really, really nice. Is he going to go after that 3rd base once again? It does look that way. The Zealot's making a beeline, but a decent amount of Hydras. He's not going to be able to get anything done with this small amount.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a puny army here from Protoss that I don't think there's any real location he can hit. Again, he wants to get another base up. The Hydras are here to try to prevent the island base. I think a quick snipe on the probe is all you need, which he does right away.
Yeah, still migrating pretty heavily here, but it's not really worth the time and effort here to deal that extra damage to the Zealots. He is going to back up with the Hydras. More Hydras rallying across the map for Sacsri now. And it looks like he is kind of opening up that 9 o'clock area as well. I think he threw a couple of units in there to try to kill that off, perhaps.
And, again, I mean, Sacsri does seem to steadily move ahead, but you don't want to count a Protoss out on, you know, about 8 gateways ready to push. The thing is that I don't think there is a real safe spot to try to take. I do think an unleashed Protoss on this map could be a threat to some of these other bases. It is actually quite a bit of surface area to try to protect. Something definitely worth noting there. Oh, big snipe there on the obs.
Yeah, nicely done. Also a little flanking force coming down and preventing, once again, that expansion that Tyson's been trying to take forever at 3 o'clock. Really doesn't feel like anything's working out for our Protoss player here tonight.
Yeah, and Zerg is on the 4 bases here. I mean, we see 2 more hatcheries being made at that 4th specifically. And I'm worried that, you know, a lot of the pressure that was... Oh, that's so good to just throw this in here and force the army back. And what he's doing is he's going to go for the robo.
Oh, man.
If he could snipe the obs, which he's going to get 1. And again, 1 observer in a push is about as risky of a push you can have in a mid-game PvZ. It's just 1 obs. So, I mean, You know, and by the way, sniping an observer, it's one of the hardest things for Protoss to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's upgrading speed and or vision, but I don't think he got either of them. I don't think he even had the funds to do that. So, I mean, and again, Zerg might even have enough. He can just kill this anyways, but we'll see.
Well, Tyson giving up that 3 o'clock base idea, going for the more central third. Moving forward with his army, he is up just slightly in supply, but that means that probably the Zerg army is a bit stronger. Lurkers starting to be spread out up this ramp. Definitely not a position you want to attack into.
Yeah, and look, the Hydras once again come in here, and this is just a thing it didn't really occur to me would be like a big threat in this game, but you can see how strong this is. If he can just run in here and basically attack the Robo and deny the tech, the only tech that Protoss has to actually see Lurkers, by the way. You know.
Yeah, a lot of very painful things happening here so far to Tyson. And honestly, I'm looking at these lines that Sacsri's making with the Hydra Lurker, and I really don't think that Tyson should be attacking right now.
No, I just don't think there's any way to get in here. Now, he's done a good job of keeping this Observer alive, but there's so many Lurkers out. This should slowly whittle down the Zealots. Now, Dragoons are really the counter to, you know, Lurkers, but when you have this high of a number, by the way, the Obs get sniped. I mean, there's just no way to get in here. And I think that the Zerg can basically counterattack now and probably kill the third base and probably win the game.
Yeah, he picked off basically all of the High Templars there, and he's up 30 supply now, which is just absurd in this matchup, especially at these low supplies. Tyson just unable to make anything happen this game. Sacsri abusing every little piece of weakness that Protoss has.
And look at that egg over there on the ramp just to delay progress here while he comes in and sandwiches these Dragoons. This game is over. A masterful game by Sacsri. I think Tyson, you know, he sort of bungled the opening. He was trying to hang on. He was trying to stay competitive in this game, but ultimately Sacsri really had a better understanding of the map and knew how to stay ahead and play safe once he got that lead.
Yeah, and you can see kind of the different levels of players in this group, right? Like, remember the Sacsri game against Bisu and how one-sided that was? And now look how one-sided it is with Sacsri going up against Tyson. So, really a broad range of skills on display here tonight. Another base being taken by Sacsri up at 12. And he's up 50 supply. Like, the game truly is his. It is over. He is going to be going to that final match.
This is usually what a Protoss that's about to die looks like. You know, there's too many Lurkers outside the base. There's not enough to fight even just the Hydras, let alone the Lurkers. And so we should be seeing Tyson probably tap out here. And from there, we're going to go to our final match, which will be Sacsri versus Light.
Yeah, and that should be a good one. Both those players extremely good at the matchup. Really, that's always been known as Light's best matchup. And honestly, I think Sacsri is a fantastic Zerg versus Terran player.
I agree. I totally agree. You know, just when it looks like Tyson might be able to break free from this, the reinforcements are going to come down here and just smother the position. And I would even say from here, I think he can probably actually attack into the cannons. Yeah, we're seeing that happen now.
Yeah, it's just way too many Hydras. He's maintained that 30 supply advantage. GG is called. GG. Tyson eliminated first from the group. Not a gigantic surprise, right? He's the tier 4 player. He has far less experience than the others. Honestly, I think he's a very good Protoss, and I think he has a bright future, but the future is not now. Right now is the present. And
now is now. So Sacsri does win that game, but I still think he's got a very tough challenge for himself up ahead, going up against the likes of Light. But I'll tell you what, you know, props to him in that game. I think he really redeemed himself after that brutal loss versus Bisu. And now we've got our 2 final players alive in Group B.
Yeah, and, you know, I'd love to see Sacsri put up a really good fight there, and I think that he can. But it's going to be really hard to get through the iron wall of Light's Terran versus Zerg. Like, even when Flash was active, there were conversations about who is actually better at SK Terran, Light or Flash, to put into perspective just how strong he is at that matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one to cast, and I think we're going to end on a high note. Definitely so far a better group than Group A was. but Light definitely the favorite going on here. Let's see, though. Maybe Sacsri causes an upset. We'll be right back, everybody.
힘들어도
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지.
오늘이 보여.
새로운 나를 만든다.
나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
어려워도 이렇게 멈추면 내가 아니지. 오늘이 모여 새로운 나를 만든다. 나의 레벨은 다르다. 어나더 레벨 핫6.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.
We are back, and it's time to go to the final match here of Group B. Sacsri looked extremely strong. I'm very curious to how he's going to approach a best-of-1 against Light. I mean, Light, I'll be honest as well. I don't think he's looked his very best today. I think we've definitely seen Light on better days.
Yeah, but I mean, getting your gas stolen twice is, that's not how you want to approach a day of ASL games. But this is going to be pretty comfortable, honestly. The map is going to be Allegro, which is basically, it's like an alternate version of Largo. So for anyone that knows the Largo map from the ladder or from previous tournaments, it's pretty similar to that overall, which is, it's a pretty flat, pretty comfortable map. Pretty vanilla overall. So I think standard openers are good. I don't think you're going to be able to catch Light with something silly like a 2-hatch lurker.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, one of the things about Light in this matchup is it's very hard to throw him off. I think his greatest strength is that he really, in TVZ, has no weaknesses whatsoever early on.
Yeah, he's just completely rock solid, and he's got amazing micro, macro, and multitasking, which is basically what SK Terran is for most of this matchup. So we're going to see if he can keep that going against Sacsri. Sacsri, though, I mean, he's got every build that there is, literally. Like, this guy is... he's got everything in Zerg vs. Terran, and he can take down anyone in a best-of-1, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's see how exactly this goes, man. I'm kind of excited. It would be pretty crazy, too, if there was a big upset here from Sacsri. I mean, Light's good, but again, like we've talked about many times before, ASL does not seem to be his tournament, man.
알레그로에서 게임을 시작합니다.
All right, we have Light in the bottom left, and we're going to have Sacsri in the top right. But yeah, you're right. Like, Light hasn't done that well in ASL. This guy has been... He's basically, since last retired, he's been considered second best Terran in the world. And he's always basically right around there. And even that being said, his win rate in ASL is 48% right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just, it's tough. He hasn't had those deep finishes. He really is the Terran equivalent of best. Like, no one doubts his skill. No one doubts that he's championship quality and one of the best players in the tournament. But is he ever going to be able to do something with that, get an ASL victory, go into that top 4 multiple seasons in a row like some of our other top players of his skill?
Yeah, it is a funny thing that you have some players who in ASL have like always looked really good, but they don't end up taking home the prize, right? Mm-hmm. So, his story is far from done here in ASL. But again, a bumpy game there against Bisu. Let's see how he performs against Sacsri. I think Sacsri came into this group knowing that this is obviously a very hard group that he's probably not expected to get out of. But one thing about Sacsri I've always noticed is that he seems to be very unfazed by this. I think he's very aware that he's very strong. He's always hardworking and trying to improve his style. So this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah. Let's see where Sacsri goes with this. Okay, Drone Scout after that, Hatchery first. Light right now is just walling in his natural, which is not uncommon at all. Anytime you have a natural that has a reasonable wall, it's generally a good thing to do. You can skip your bunker and everything and just feel completely safe early on, do kind of whatever you want behind it. And now I'm kind of interested. Like, is Light going to wall into SK Terran, or is he going to use one of these very modern Valkyrie Vulture type builds that are starting to emerge?
It's a good question, man. This is a situation where he's not fully walled in. The berth at the entrance is pretty large. If I had to guess, he's probably just going to expand. But, I think it's one of the strengths of the build is that, on the surface, the Zerg can't know right away, right? I mean, they have to be prepared for two very different styles of play.
Now, look at that. That's a beautiful drone block because he's taking a third hatchery on location. So this is not like some sort of 2-hatchery Mutalisk timing coming out of Sacsri, but instead it's going to be 3-hatchery Mutalisk timing, but he's going to be mining from an additional base. So if Light isn't aware of that, it's a little bit harder to play against. They're going to have a bigger economy than you're expecting. Eventually he'll start to figure it out. But I like the opener from Sacsri. It's not as common and definitely could catch Light a little bit off guard.
What is actually happening in the top left? That's not a building, is it? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It was 2 Marines. It looked like it was a depot for a second. I thought that there was something really weird going on that I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah, sometimes you can catch an Overlord trying to rotate to your cliff. Yeah. And, when you catch it, you look like such a god. Obviously, it's amazing to do. But right now, we have Light actually going for a very quick +1, which this will just fare well against a 3-hatch play. It's a very strong opener. But the thing that I'm wondering right now, is Sacsri going to go into Crazy Zerg from here? Or is he going to try to go into like a Lurker Defiler? I feel like when we see this opener, it very oftentimes goes into Crazy Zerg.
And when you say Crazy Zerg, you're talking about, armor upgrades, mass lings, a rush into Ultralisk.
Yes, exactly that. So it's Crazy Zerg is basically Zerg without Lurker Defiler. You're on Mutas, and you go into basically Carapace upgrades and rush into Ultras very, very quickly. And it's kind of a tricky thing to play against, and I think actually the +1 Rax plays are not particularly good against it. You're actually a little bit slower on your +2 with the fast eBay. I know it sounds weird, but your factory generally comes a little bit later, which is normally the gating factor.
This drone's always been here, ready to block the entrance. He definitely wants to create ambiguity about what he has planned here. A modest push coming out now from Light. 1 medic and I think about 6 Marines. And there's the Spire. And, we've seen Light play like this in years past. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he'll go up to 5 racks. Is that normally the play, Tastosis?
Yeah. The norm is absolutely to go into 5 barracks, but he is actually skipping that. He's going into 3 barracks, and that's a very fast factory.
Wow.
Oh, man, that's... Dude, 530 factory with this? That's super cool. This is some new territory that Light's bringing us into.
So what is the idea with the quick factory? I mean, does he want to try to get a tank out right away and start to shell this? Or is it more important to get a starport out? Because, of course, you need a factory to make that.
Okay, honestly, I'd be pretty surprised if he goes for the tank. Oh, my God. Gets caught there, but okay, he's...
Wait. No.
Yeah, the medic blocking. Woo, that was close, though. That was scary.
This game could have ended outright. Well, hold on. It might still, because... Can he not just start to attack the depots?
No. You'll kill all the lings, basically.
But a big loss for Terran nonetheless, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he doesn't have the 5 racks, obviously, so he can't mass-produce Marines at that rate, which means every Marine is even more valuable. He is going to go for that starport very quickly. Obviously, the vessel's extremely important to have.
Yeah, and I think that he will go up to vessels pretty quickly here. And I think the other part of this for Light and why he went for such a quick factory was probably to get +2 started as quickly as possible. Like I was mentioning, a lot of times this type of build from Sacsri goes into Crazy Zerg, and you just need your +2 attack upgrade for Marines as quickly as possible against that. Now, that's jumping a little bit forward. We're going to have to see where he goes with it, but the first Mute is coming down now. Already some turrets up in good locations.
Yeah, a very healthy
and
turret
actually,
lineup.
Light Light is actually getting an add-on on the factory, so we might see a tank push.
This is so interesting to see Light approaching this in a very different way. It does seem like there's almost enough turrets, especially in the main, that I don't think these mutas can really come in and do very much. Now, the Queen's Nest is going to finish, and the moment that's done, we, of course, will have a Hive start up here, because really the power of this build is the armor upgrade combined with the Adrenal Zerglings and the Ultralisks.
Yeah.
And that's really where Terran doesn't have, you know, most of TVZ Terran's army can kind of take fights if they're just positioned correctly. But when the Ultras come out, they're basically stronger than most everything the Terran has.
Well, you know what's interesting here as well is I saw a Hydralisk Den, so I think he's just going to go into slightly slower Ultras, like Lurkers into Defilers into Ultras. And that actually should do pretty well. Like, I mean, it all comes down to, do you have Consume before the tanks break through wherever you're trying to break through, right? That's going to be the big question when a tank push is taking place.
He's itching to come out.
Yeah, I think he's kind of trying to bait him in, seeing if he can pick anything off, seeing how many mutas there really are here. Well, honestly, Tastosis, I'm looking at this position, and this could really go either way right now. Like, Sacsri is very low on units. He's being extremely greedy. But if he switches at just the right time and slows this just enough, like, if he seriously, if he gets consumed before he gets broken, these tanks are going to be pretty much a waste. And that's going to put Sacsri well ahead.
One of the reasons why, you know, the tanks oftentimes don't have viability in late game is because Dark Swarm just kills them, you know? Tanks are like this very specific mid-game thing. You can go mass tanks if you're like meching, and you're just basically relying on the excess of splash damage everywhere to kind of work, but this is a very specific timing that pretty much has to work, or the Terran is going to have invested in, what is it, 2 tanks? I don't see a third one here. Invested in 2 tanks and siege mode for nothing.
Yeah. The tank push now, anytime you see a tank push nowadays, generally you have to leave on 2 tanks because it's not quick enough to wait for the third and then go. So you have to push on 2. And he gets both of them across the map. Nothing gets picked off by mutas or anything, which is always a problem that can occur. And just waiting for that siege mode to finish. Let's see if he can push through. You notice the Sunkens are spread out a little bit to reduce that tank splash.
Oh my God!
I didn't think he was going to get that.
I for a second just looked at this and thought, okay, Light must just know that doesn't connect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Drones are just picked off randomly. A scan should be in order here.
Oh man, he kills one of the siege tanks already. So one siege tank breaking through all this does take a lot longer. The mutas continuing to harass. Don't forget, he lost that vessel and he spent gas on Irradiate. So an Irradiate here would be gigantic against these mutas. Okay, there it is. Ooh, so much damage.
Oh man, he had a hard time splitting that.
And Tastosis, I don't see a Defiler. This is an issue.
Okay, the Defiler mound is out, but you're right. Without a Defiler, okay, here it is. Here it is. But I think the Marines can get a surround here, and I think that means he's going to be able to execute the Defiler along with this entire Zerg position. This may be just barely a victory here for Terran. Look at this. GG. Wow.
Yeah, really well done from Light. Some killer instinct, just kind of identifying that the Hive was going to be slightly slower with that 3 hatchery at 3 different base opener from Sacsri. Sacsri not getting into consume quickly enough to be able to battle back against that siege tank push. So beautifully executed. Lights, Terran versus Zerg holds up. The guy is just an encyclopedia on how to pick Zerg apart.
Hey man, better games than Group A for sure, but the same kind of results. The players we anticipate winning are in fact moving on to the round of 16. I think giving us a more and more exciting round of 16 to look forward to as we get closer and closer to finishing up the round of 24.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, this is I'm very happy so far with the 4 players that have advanced to that next round. Getting Light in there alongside Best, Shuttle, and Bisu.
ASL
Quick
시즌
interview
13
with Light.
24강 비조 경기 모두 함께 만나보셨습니다. 오늘의 두 번째 진출자죠. 테란 이재호 선수 만나보겠습니다. 축하드립니다.
감사합니다. 고맙습니다.
순간순간 철렁하는 순간들은 있었지만 그래도 역시 이재호 선수다운 강한 모습으로 다시 한번 16강 진출 이뤄내셨습니다. 소감부터 좀 여쭤볼까요?
일단 마지막 경기도 좀 아슬아슬해서 좀 가슴이 철렁 내려앉는 기분이었고요. 그래도 올라가게 돼서 기분이 되게 좋습니다.
타이밍을 노리고 한방 병력으로 결국 이재호 선수를 밀어내셨습니다. 이 배슬이 처음에 터지는 장면에서 이재호 선수가 좀 깜짝 놀라는 표정들이 있었거든요. 많이 당황하셨나요?
그거는 정말 죽으면 안 되는 타이밍이라서 그거는 제 목숨처럼 생각했어야 되는데 보니까는 없어졌더라고요. 그래서 망했다 싶었는데 다행히 이제 후속에서 잘 싸우면서 이겼던 것 같습니다.
오늘 경기 전 인터뷰에서 이번 시즌 조금 더 탄탄해진 경기력을 보여주겠다라는 말씀을 해주셨어요. 첫 번째 경기 박지훈 선수와의 경기에서 그런 모습을 좀 볼 수 있었거든요. 정찰도 굉장히 꼼꼼하셨고 이 동선도 맵을 넓게 쓰면서 좀 상대방의 허점을 노리는 모습들이 보였는데 김태경 선수와의 토스전에서는 살짝 허를 좀 찔리는 듯한 느낌도 들었거든요. 어떠셨나요?
일단 승자전 김태경 선수 경기에서는 제가 생각지도 못한 상황들이 연달아 나와서 좀 당황을 많이 했던 것 같아요. 그래서 좀 쉽게 내줬는데 그거 지고 나서 진짜 조금만 더 집중 못하면 떨어질 수도 있겠다는 생각이 들어서 그때부터 계속 정신을 차렸던 게 도움이 됐던 것 같습니다.
이런 시행착오를 24강에서 거쳤기 때문에 16강부터는 이재호 선수의 본연의 모습, 강한 모습을 또다시 볼 수 있을 거라는 기대가 됩니다. 16강에서 어떤 모습 보여주실 건가요?
일단 4강을 언제 가봤는지 좀 기억이 안 날 정도로 조금 오래된 것 같아서 일단 4강이 목표로 준비를 할 거고요. 거기 가면 또 결승까지 목표를 바꾸고 더 연습에 매진할 것 같습니다.
네, 팬들에게도 한 말씀 마지막으로 전해주시죠.
일단 저도 요즘에 그 대회 준비하느라 바빠가지고 지금 아프리카 스타판에서 좀 여러 컨텐츠들이 있잖아요. 그 대학 컨텐츠 저도 합류를 해서 저희 그 시조세 이사장님이 있는 JSE에서 활동을 하고 있거든요. 이제 대회도 올라갔으니까 또 남은 컨텐츠 같이 참여해서 재밌게 해보도록 하겠습니다.
네, 이번 시즌 이재호 선수의 행복 기대하겠습니다. 다시 한번 진출 축하드립니다.
네, 감사합니다. 고맙습니다.
자, 이렇게 해서 오늘의 두 번째 진출자 이재호 선수와 함께했습니다.
And there you have it. To the round of 16, Bisu in first place, Light in second. A cool group. Some interesting games in there, no doubt. I think that you can look at Sacsri's and Tyson's play and be impressed. They're definitely players that should be in ASL, but maybe not the round of 16.
Yeah, these were much better games than Group A, and it's so cool to see Bisu advancing and looking as strong as he is. Yeah, man. I don't know. This has been a fun day to cast.
Yeah. And I'm happy with who's advancing and everything. It's great to see Bisu in great shape. Now, Group C coming up next. Look at this group. Bingsu that you see there, that's actually Horangi, for anyone wondering about that. Then you have Action and Rain, two really great players. Rain's return, amazing. And then Bishop in his first ASL. That's amazing to see. He's been one of the top amateur Terrans for years and years and years. He actually went random before Flash and almost qualified for ASL with random like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, something like that. But he's back to just Terran, and we'll see how he can do in the group. It seems like a long shot for him, though. This is his first really big event.
And to have Rain back here, I'm super excited to see how he's going to perform. He's always had a very different approach to the game, and it's definitely proven to have some amazing results. So let's see what he's got coming into this. He very well could be, one of our favorites for the entire tournament.
Yeah, especially when you look at some of his matchups. Like, if we have a lot of Protoss advancing, so far we do, right? We have 3 great Protosses moving forward, but Rain is like basically the best Protoss versus Protoss we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's crazy. And with it such a Protoss-rich ASL, that's going to have to be a factor. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today here for Group B. We will have Group C out ASAP. And, of course, everybody who supported us on Patreon, that's patreon.com/ASL English. We love you guys. We'll see you at Group B. Group C, Bye-bye.
ASL 시즌 13 Unlimited.